Hi guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to have some Division 17 ranked online gameplay. This was Season 10, so it was last season, but I've got a lot of gameplay I still need to upload from last season. I'm going to start filtering in some new season gameplay. I think the next video is going to be an Alexander Volkanovski gameplay, and that's going to be 2 fights in new season. So here, as you can see, I'm in Division 17 using Sugar Sean coming up against Aljamain Sterling, who I had a positive record on. I think I beat this opponent 3 times to 1. And obviously, coming up against Sterling, you're expecting to go to the ground. Sterling have quite a good arsenal of kicks, decent power, and obviously using O'Malley, who's not a 5-star fighter, doesn't have the cardio really for the 5-round fights. Got to be very selective in what I throw. And like I said, it being a 5-round fight, I've got to be extremely cautious of stamina, because when it hits the championship rounds, if my opponent has the stamina advantage and really starts to press with Aljamain Sterling, I could be in a lot of problems. And the main thing when coming up against a grappler using Sugar Sean that you've got to be wary of course, is the takedowns, because once I get to the ground, O'Malley off his back isn't the greatest, and Aljamain Sterling has such a wide variety of submissions that he can utilise from the ground. So I've got to be extremely cautious, and as you can see, my opponent's clinching me here, and I didn't really want to be backed up towards the fence, which I end up being backed up anyway. We deny my opponent from taking my back, and we've done a good job here of rotating away and then controlling the centre of the octagon. And one thing that's going to be key is a lot of fakes throughout the fight, keep my opponent guessing, keep it at kicking range as much as possible. And I'm going to try to work the body, because I need to drain Aljamain Sterling's stamina as much as possible. Like I said, I don't mind losing a couple rounds, but of course in a 5-round fight, if it goes to decision, I need to win 3 in order to win the fight. And I'm not going to throw too many significant strikes. I'm just going to tap my opponent, work them. We've got 5 rounds to work with, and the one thing I don't need to do is push for a finish, unless, you know, it hits the championship rounds and I'm down on the scorecards. But for the time being, through rounds 1 to 3, I don't need to throw anything too significant. I just need to keep my opponent on the end of my punches and really look to zap my opponent's stamina. And my opponent ends up getting me down here and advances to half guards. And with how long's left in the round, the submission threat is still possible. So I need to keep my stamina in a good position here and avoid any sort of submission threat, because normally any submission, especially with a submission specialist like Aljamain Sterling, will take around 50 to 60 seconds. So as soon as he hits that minute mark down to the 50, I'm expecting my opponent to go for a submission. And as you can see, my opponent doesn't do it here, so I know we're going to be alright. I just need to see off this round. Of course, my opponent's going to rack up some control time, but as long as my opponent isn't doing too much damage here, then I should be alright going into the next round. As you can see, we blocked two of the punches, so not much damage taken that round. My opponent did get the takedown, but that came towards the later end of the round, so we can draw on some positives from that round. Obviously, stamina management we did a good job in, which is going to be crucial throughout the fight, and maybe mixing in these leg kicks. But the problem is when using Sugar Sean is as soon as your opponents start blocking those leg kicks and then your legs slowly wilt away, your game plan sort of goes out the window. So I was trying not to rely too heavily on leg kicks or kicks to the body, because if my opponent catches the kicks to the body, it will result in a takedown potentially, and I need the fight to stay on the feet as much as possible. And like I said, the game plan really is going to be to work the body and slowly but surely whittle down the head health. I don't really want to get pressure. You can see I'm doing a very good job in blocking the leg kicks. The oblique kicks not so much, but the leg kicks we're having great success in blocking. As you can see, I try to land one on my own, my opponent blocks. But as long as it stays on the feet, I feel fairly confident that the fight should end up in the way I want it to, which is of course a finish. Obviously, Aljamain Sterling doesn't have the striking that Sugar Sean does, and as long as my opponent isn't going for these takedowns, the fight will play out to how I want it. And as you can see, I'm being extremely patient, because I've got to wait to pick the shots. If I overcommit, my opponent could hit me with a variety of moves, such as, you know, Aljamain Sterling's got the spinning kicks, the spinning elbows, and all it takes is for you to get touched by one of those and you're in a lot of danger. And here I was trying to walk my opponent to the cage, just control the centre of the octagon again. And we're doing a good job of being elusive, being in and out of range, going in between the kickboxing and boxing range, which is exactly what you need to do. My opponent lands a beautiful head kick there. That was a great combination. And as you can see, when my opponent is pressuring me, I'm just trying to rely on the movement, head movement. As you see, done a great job there of avoiding the knee. And using feints where possible. Obviously, you don't want to feint too much, but where you can throw a feint here and there, keep your opponent guessing, because that's exactly what Sean does in real life. And it's something you've got to utilise there as we land the spinning elbow. And right now, the fight's fairly even, 50-50 fight. My opponent's output is quite high, but he's missing quite a lot of his strikes, whereas I'm trying to be a bit more patient, and I'm going to look to, in the 4th and 5th, explode, because the main game plan here is I'm really trying to tire my opponent, leave my opponent with not much stamina left, and look to utilise the championship rounds and really push for a finish. We found ourselves in the same position there as the round before, where my opponent catches my leg, but this time we deny the takedown. And this was the problem I was talking about here, is that O'Malley's leg health isn't the greatest, and my opponent gets the leg event there. So at this point, I decide I'm pretty much going to abandon leg kicks and solely stick to boxing and body and head kicks, because I don't want to be getting caught and my opponent getting easy knockdowns from it. Obviously, it's only round 2, and if my opponent really looks to utilise leg kicks across these next 3 rounds, I could be in a lot of danger. So I'm going to try to eliminate that by not throwing too many myself and switch in and out of stances. But apart from that leg health event, I'd say it was a fairly successful round, doing what I need to do, keeping it simple, short combinations, and really looking to pick my opponent apart from range, doing a great job of blocking the strikes to the head. See, my opponent shows respect there. And yeah, so that's the stats for that round. As you can see, fairly even round, fight could go either way. And coming into the 3rd, 4th and 5th, I'm expecting my opponent to eventually go for a takedown, just because, you know, using Aljamain Sterling makes sense to get the fight to the ground. And as you can see, coming out in the 3rd, my opponent's a lot more aggressive here, and that's something I've got to be wary of. So I resort to controlling the centre of the octagon again, which gives me space to back away if I need to back away or rotate away. But I really need to try to be controlling the centre of the octagon as much as possible. My opponent's landing these leg kicks now, and yeah, like I said, he's going to really try to whittle down the leg health, because then it can resort to easy knockdowns from my opponents. And yeah, so facing a grappler, of course, it's always going to be hard using O'Malley. So that's why I'm trying to not throw too many kicks to the roundhouses to the body, or kicks to the body in general, even though O'Malley has phenomenal kicks. And as you can see, now we're starting to tee off a bit when in the pocket. I'm really trying to make reads off my opponent, as you can see, moving away there. And we're doing a very good job of blocking to the head. That's one thing we've done very well throughout the fight. As you can see, my head health's in a decent position, body health's in a decent position. The weakest thing at the moment would probably be just about my head health, which is obviously to be expected. A lot of people headhunt, but my leg health is just there. But we've done a good job of maintaining body health, which is something that when fighting an O'Malley player, I'd look to really utilise, is work on the body. And unfortunately, my opponent gets the stun off there. Beautiful head kick. My opponent's thrown those quite a few times before, but finally lands, and then it gets the knockdown. So fortunately enough, my opponent doesn't end up getting on top, and now my opponent's really going to come in with the pressure. And this is where we've got to weather the storm a bit, go back to using our range, and it's only a matter of time before we'll eventually get a stun or rock of our own, as long as we're patient. And as you can see, I'm quite composed, even though obviously my head health now isn't in the greatest position. My opponent's trying to pressure me here, but I need to get back to what I was doing before, keeping the fight in control in my range. Opponent goes for a takedown, which we deny, and this was a big morale boost here, because obviously my opponent was doing well on the feet, got the rock and the drop, but goes for the takedown here. He was just trying to probably secure the round, even though the round at this point is definitely his, unless I get a knockdown and a stun myself. But there is positives I can take from this round, is that obviously my opponent isn't looking to stand with me, definitely wants to get the fight to the ground, and I'm slowly making the reads and picking up on my opponent's combinations. Obviously the head kick was thrown before, so I should have potentially read it, but I just need to stay focused, because these strikes that I'm throwing, although they're not power strikes, they are adding up, and my opponent's head health is slowly going down, and my opponent's stamina is also going down. So this now puts us into a position where in the 4th and 5th we've really got to be a bit more aggressive, potentially pursue a finish depending on how the next round goes, because it could be 3 rounds to my opponent or 2 rounds to my opponent. And of course, if this goes to decision, we could end up losing. Obviously that round's definitely my opponent's round because of the knockdown, and damage is what gets you points on the scorecards with the judges on the game. And right now what I've got to do is not get pressured, and I've really got to take back the control of the fight, because now my opponent's hurt me. My opponent's really going to try to pressure me to potentially get another knockdown or pursue a finish. I'm also expecting my opponent to go for a takedown this round. As you can see, we land the front kick there to my opponent. We're doing a good job here mixing it up. As you can see, beautiful combination, work the head and then the body. My opponent lands a front kick to my head, and I've got to be careful here. As you can see, my opponent's really trying to headhunt, and now that we're in the 4th and 5th, I'm going to start trying to work the roundhouses to the body. As you can see, we landed one there, followed by the knee, and I'm just going to try to zap my opponent's stamina, because based on how this round goes, obviously I don't know how the judges score in the fight, I am going to have to look for a finish in the 5th, so I'm going to lay all the foundation for the 5th round finish in this round here. And obviously over the rounds we're doing small increments of damage, working the body, working the head, and trying to keep my stamina in a position to where if I need to go pursue a finish I can. And that's looking like the case, as my opponent obviously gets the stun off there, trying to throw the elbows here, and then we turn around, get the stun of our own. We saw that my opponent's stamina flashed there, that's why I went to the roundhouse to the body. I'm really trying to work that stamina, and just be patient, because I know my opponent can get hurt. I know his head health's also not in the greatest position, so it's just a matter of time. I just need to wait for that one chance to really explode on my opponent. And as you can see, I'm being super patient because of my head health. It's not going to take too much to stun me. Bang, we get the stun off on my opponent there, work the body, and this is where the foundation from the rounds before really started to come in now. That right hook to my opponent's head has always been there, and it's just a matter of time before I catch my opponent. My opponent goes for a takedown here because he feels that this round's getting out of his reach. Do a great job of denying. Go for the heel kick there, and then we get the knockdown. Got to let my opponent get up, and see we've really taken control of this round now. Landed a roundhouse to the body, which is something that I was waiting to utilise in the 4th and 5th if need be, because I didn't want my opponent catching my kicks. And the punches to the body have really paid dividends. I know my opponent's stamina isn't in the greatest position, and I'm just being extremely patient again. Although I've had the knockdown, I know this round's mine, so I'm just going to wait. And again, really dig into the body. Another knockdown here, and I know my opponent's in a terrible position, and I don't want to go all out heavy now, because in the 5th that's exactly what I intend on doing. I tend to dominate and really press my opponent, because I know my opponent's not in a great position here. In the 5th round, I'm really expecting my opponent to get the fight to the ground as quick as possible, and then unfortunately my opponent gets a stun off there. And coming into this round, this needs to be a big round. We got the 2 knockdowns, but I didn't jump on top because I didn't really want to risk getting caught in the rubber guard or a submission. So coming in now, I know my opponent's hurt. As you see, we hurt my opponent there again. Go to the body, roundhouse to the body, and I'm just trying to mix it up. Obviously my opponent's head's hurting, so when my opponent's head's hurting, I'm really trying to go for the body, and I'm really forcing my opponent to exchange because of this pressure. As you can see, my opponent's stamina flashed there, not in a great position, and these roundhouses to the body are really doing work here. Again, body, head, and it's just a constant free flow of attack mixed in a beautiful knee there, roundhouse to the body, and my opponent's really struggling for answers here. I'm expecting a takedown any second, but my opponent's trying to exchange. We get another knockdown here, and then we end up on top, but I opt to get up straight away because I don't know how the judges score in the fight, so I really should be looking for a finish. I've also got to be careful to not put myself in a position to get finished, because obviously my head health isn't the greatest. But as you can see, beautiful right hook, which I said has been there throughout the whole fight. Drop my opponent, and then the ground and pound ends up getting my opponent out of there. So that was an extremely competitive fight with my opponent. Obviously coming up against the grappler that didn't look to grapple too often just because of the takedown deniers, and it just shows you that my game plan throughout the fight of not throwing too many strikes, keeping stamina up, eventually worked out. And you know, just picking up on little tools like waiting to land the roundhouses to the body in the later rounds, because I didn't want to get the kicks caught and then take her down. And obviously where I didn't utilise those kicks to start with, my opponent then didn't expect them in the 4th and 5th. Also not going for too many head kicks to not take away from my stamina, because obviously kicking takes away more stamina than punching. Throughout the fight, obviously making that little adjustment of not throwing leg kicks, because I knew my leg health was starting to put me at an extreme disadvantage. So by adapting to that, it took one thing away from my arsenal, but took one away from my opponents as well, because he wouldn't be able to get those easy knockdowns and leg health events. But yeah, extremely entertaining fight. Obviously using O'Malley in a 5-round fight has always got its challenges, and then coming up against the grappler is obviously a challenge within itself. But that's going to be the video for today. The judges' scorecards will be coming up on the screen shortly. Thank you for the support on the videos as of lately. We've hit 91 subscribers, so big thank you. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.